debate, certainly the opening presentation in the budget debate for 2025-2026 by our finance minister. With us online is Dr. Nadine Spence. She is, of course, a public affairs commentator. Good morning, welcome to the program, Nadine. I'm good, and I trust you are well. Alright, we were hoping to put through the connection to Nadine on air shortly. Just to stand by a bit, Nadine, we're coming up with that, and we are intent listeners on getting Dr. Kevin O'Brien Chang, rather. He also is a noted public affairs commentator and, I dare say, political analyst. So we're going to be gauging their reactions, and of course perhaps look to some of the other contributions that are to come in this 2025-2026 budget debate. Now, of course, there are a number of announcements that were made. Some of them will touch and concern stakeholders in different segments of the society. I gather Dr. Spence is now on the line. Good morning, lady. Welcome to the program.
Good morning. You weren't hearing me before?
Yes, I was hearing, but the connection through to the studio had not yet been made. So, let me just apologize for that. We're still standing by to make contact with Kevin. So I'm just going to ask you to hold, Nadine. We're seeking to make the connection with Kevin O'Brien Chang so that we can go through some of the highlights of Minister Williams' presentation. I note, listeners, one of the more topical, it's the matter we have been on since this morning, the matter of the personal income tax threshold. We note the considerable commentary online having regard to an interview Mr. Williams did on TV News, all angles last evening, but we'll get to that in short order. Morning, ladies and gentlemen. Morning, Kevin. Welcome to the program.
Morning, everybody. Morning, Kevin.
Very well. All right, so we're getting reactions, ladies and gentlemen, in relation to the opening presentation in this 2025-2026 budget debate. And so I'm going to start with you, Nadine. Your reactions here too.
Well, you know, as I said, I was listening to Minister Williams for several reasons. One, she's the first woman to serve as Minister of Finance. So I was listening to hear how she delivered, you know, would women across Jamaica feel proud, because a lot of women, I know certainly at Musical Hall, I was telling the young women this is a historic moment. This is our first finance you need to listen. I don't know how many of them took me on, but to me it was important for that. Secondly, I was listening to her as the Minister of Finance who took over after Nigel Clark, and Nigel Clark, we know, was formidable. We know that his presentations were, you know, he brought alive the presentation from the Minister of Finance. So you were listening, I was listening for that. As well, I was listening to say, you know, what was she going to announce that would excite people, not just excite years of voters, but excite different groups of voters. And I think on all fronts, I think she delivered in a very positive way. I think as a woman and somebody who is interested in women's progress and women's development, she knocked it way out of the ballpark. Sorry. She was steady, she was reassuring, she made it clear that Jamaica was in good hands, that we weren't going to be squandering the gains of the last 9 years, that she believed that we needed to be fiscally prudent, that we needed to be disciplined. She understood the task. I think she clearly understands that Jamaicans, and she said, don't want no run with it government. She was clear that we were going to continue on this path of discipline. That was clear. As somebody who was listening for the post Nigel presentation. She's not a Nigel Clark, she's Favorite Williams. And she delivered. And those of us who, were wanting hard, Favorite is not the most exciting speaker. She delivered. She delivered, and we were not disappointed.
If you were to give a grade on 10, what grade I gave my remarks yesterday?
I'm going to be biased. This is Jamaica's first woman Prime Minister. There were some things I wanted to hear that I didn't hear as a woman. I wanted to hear more for Jamaican women, but I'm going to give her a 10. I was happy to hear her.
A 10, you're a generous smart Canadian. I gave her 8 on 10. All right.
I'm giving her a 10. This is our first woman Minister of Finance, and she delivered in ways that I think made us comfortable that she
all right,
is going
we can
to
take
do
it
what
from
we
the
want her to.
assessment, yeah. All right, thanks for that, Nadine. Coming to Kevin, your reactions to Favor's presentation, Kevin.
I'm going between you guys, 9.
I see.
All right?
Very well.
You give it, she gave 10, I give it 9. This woman thing, let me tell you something. I don't think this woman thing is any big deal. Woman run Jamaica already.
Yeah.
I don't think people judge on sex anymore. We know the women are as good or better than the men in Jamaica. And women, this is the most female-dominated country on the planet already in all aspects. But it is very curious that Favorite Williams is not that popular as when she was in science and unpopular when she was in education. But she touched the chord yesterday. I'm talking to people on the road and things. It's the first time so many common people seem to be following our budget debate. It is the woman thing, as Nadine said, the women are sticking up for women.
Yeah.
But I think she had a more common touch than Nigel Clark. 3 things stood out to me. The content is one thing, but the delivery. When you talk about as a little girl having to go get water in the morning, cat on her head with her kata, right? That resonated with a lot of Jamaicans who have been there and done that. And somebody was saying they wonder if a certain leader know what a kata is,
Yeah.
So that resonated, I'm one of you. That story was brilliant. Everybody can, a lot of Jamaicans have been there and experienced that, and that is what, a lot of what people want in politicians, to understand them,
Indeed.
I don't care what you know if I don't know that you care. It's all adage. The second thing was a brilliant turn of phrase. Taking the people who want to take the NIR money and spend it for short-term gains, right? Political or otherwise, are like those who would get their rent money and go to spend it on a party. And then the part afterwards resonated. And what do you do when the music stops? Very powerful. Third one was when she said, in election year, and the rules allow us to spend deficit spending this year. And me and the Prime Minister sat down and talked about it. We looked the deficit in the eye, the feel good election run with it budget, and we said no, because of the signals to send to not only the local folks, business folks, but the foreign folks, And that was brilliant also, because it summarized the reality of what the holders government, tries to portray, but it actually is walking the talk here, And she had a phrase, she kept repeating a phrase, which I think is very resonant, not exciting, but very resonant. We are a responsible government who cares. In other words, you want to do what we can do, but we're going to be careful. It's like a cricket batsman playing straight, not playing any hooks and cuts to lose the wicket. We're going to stay at the wicket and make runs. We may not make them as fast and as exciting a manner as some would want, but we're going to stay there and make runs. We're not going to flash the bat and get out. So overall, very powerful. And none of our things were earth-shaking, Everything is very conservative. It's a lot 21 things, but they're all incremental. Nothing like out of the box. Even the the threshold, the income tax is 100,000 each year. And it's exactly what the country needs. We're on the right track. And just keep on the right track. If you press the gas and go on the corner and slide to a wall.
On that particular point, Kevin, do you get the sense that folks are being unmindful of the national effect of this to the extent that the revenue being given up is just about 5 million in this first year and for each of the years in terms of the increase in the personal income tax. But what it will mean in terms of money being back in people's pockets to the tune of 5 billion nationally, what that will mean for GCT receipts and of course economic activity in the country generally to the extent that disposable income is up. I want your assessment of that.
As William said, when you cut taxes, economies grow. We need taxes to run the country. No country runs without taxes, but there's an optimum point, right? Too little taxes, you got no services. Too much taxes, the economy flatlines or doesn't grow. Yes, at that midpoint, and I think Jamaica is aiming for that midpoint, that optimum point, where enough taxes to run the country, but not enough to stifle private enterprise. And so, as I said, interesting, she quoted, what I like about it is very, very data-driven. And she's a lady that listens a lot. That they do the survey, and 90% of Jamaicans understand they can run the country without taxes. And one more thing I must mention, she called a lot of names. That's where I feel a woman touches Nadine. Women have this higher EQ than men. She called a lot of names, Hardly Nigel, other people. And who doesn't love hear their name called in public?
All this face lit up.
Seem like a team player.
Yeah, all this face
lit up. Team player.
I'm saying Audley's face lit up and it was appropriate so to do because the successes we're currently enjoying, it was as a result of the heavy lifting of several persons in periods prior, and importantly on the point of the Junior Stock Exchange and the insistence of keeping that in place.
All that really practical, man. You need somebody, before Nigel came, Audley did a good job,
Yes.
Nobody said Audley did a good job when Nigel came, but we know Nigel had the education in that field. Audley good man, very smart, but he didn't have the PhD in math. That's from Oxford. The Nigel had, and Nigel took it another level. Audley doing a pretty good job. We must remember him, and remember, I'm not forgetting Portia or Peter, even Bruce, when Bruce started, they would have the greatest financial crisis in how many years. So, they all played their part, and she called Bruce names, she called a lot of names, and that shows a team player mentality, and I think it resonated. And as I said, Nadine, you're not giving up. That is the way the female EQ may have come in.
No, I was just saying that I listen as a woman. Women listen and are listening for different reasons. So I'm saying, when you listening and hearing her talk about that water tax, so many people, you're right, Kevin, so much people resonate with that idea of a cutter and carrying water. That was one of those moments when if you were tense listening, it brought you down, because most Jamaicans who had a particular experience can say, okay, she understands.
Yes,
she
exactly.
gets it. You know what I mean? And to hear somebody speak to that, I, as a woman from rural Jamaica, I've not heard anybody articulate that water problem in such a way. Jamaicans who come from rural Jamaica have that issue with water that has been at the forefront of our daily lives for such a long time, and no government has tackled it that way or has acknowledged it the way she acknowledged it.
That's at the tone, I believe.
Yeah.
That story.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead, complete the thought, and I'll put this next question to you.
Yeah, when she talked about, I like her analogy as well of riding a bicycle with balance wheel, but no, we are big people, we are big people with bicycle. We are balancing ourselves. We are finding ways to ensure that we stay on target, that we stay disciplined. I like that analogy as well, because you could see it. I think that's one of the things she did. She used these stories, these analogies, to kind of bring home to people what this next section of my presentation is going to be like. And I think that she did that very well. One of the phrases that she uses, she uses it all the time. We're ending fiscal year 24-25 strong. she kept saying it. She repeated that over and over. And so, I just think when you start to pick at it, you find that there were so many good points in the presentation. Yes, Marlon.
Yeah. Nadine, one of the things that I clearly detected coming out in the presentation, I think Kevin touched on it when he mentioned, listening to people. She appears as though she's listening to people and so on. The proposed continued reforms from an SLB standpoint, based on where you work in terms of your substantive engagement, Nadine, being the hall manager at Mayor C. Cole Hall, I would have heard you elsewhere in Radio Land. I wanted to just make that point for our listeners, what the idea of reforming SLB loans such that it not only considers the fair tuition element, but also the housing and accommodation element, the books and supplies element, a laptop computer, and nutritional support. That never did a keep when me and you were on the Mona campus.
No, because you know that if you apply to student loan, I was a student and lived on Preston Hall, you got $50,000 as an additional grant to your tuition. And there was a time when that $50,000 could pay half of your school fee when I was paying like a $60,000 or $80,000 for school fee. But the coming academic year, tuition fees for what I call traditional halls like Seacold, Taylor, Chancellor is going to be $300 and I think $70,000 or $300 and something. I don't know how much for a single room and a double room. It's going to be expensive. And when you're paying tuition, hall fees for people in rural Jamaica, that's a huge amount. If you live in Kingston and you're traveling from your parents' home going to school, it's not a big thing. If you come from Manchester, Westmoreland, Hanover, you have to get a room at campus. You struggle, and I know my students struggle, and sometimes I am calling all over the place trying to help them to get additional funds, calling politicians, calling business people to say my students need an additional $50,000. Can you help? Right? And so that's one thing. But I also know that some students can't afford a laptop, can't afford a tablet. So actually the library has a rent, not a rent, they will lend you a laptop. Right? And then there are students who I have on my form, that's on my desk that I'm looking at now, students who are applying for meal grants. And just the other day, I got into an agreement with Grace, where Grace gives me like 15 food baskets a month to help the students who are facing hunger. So we have students who sleep in the library, students who sleep on the trees, students who sleep in common areas on the campus, who cannot afford accommodation. So this is such a huge thing. I don't think people get how big this is for the student at UWI or Tech who cannot afford to pay tuition and then find, in some cases, hall fees are $600 or $1,000 in a percentage more than that tuition to live on certain halls. Right? And it's not that everybody can live on the halls that are cheaper because those spaces are limited.
Exactly. We call those the traditional halls. The Irving, the Taylors.
Not Irving anymore. Taylor, Seacold,
and of course
Chancellor. Those are the three traditional.
But Preston and others are.
Well, no. Preston is traditional, but they are more expensive.
More expensive, and so is Rex.
They're UWI owned. We don't call them traditional. They're UWI owned, but they're more expensive than the ones that were built in the 1950s and 60s.
All right, want to pivot. Well, I want to come to you, Kevin. As we wrap up, you would have listened to the budget debate. You wear a particular hat as an entrepreneur. A number of things in there for business people. Give us what some of your key takeaways are in the 3 or so minutes we have remaining on the program.
I don't know about the particular, but the general trend of making business easier. For example, the car thing is dropping it from 100% for the bond to 20%.
Yeah.
You know, I don't get the incremental benefit, nothing, no big thing, but every little thing would make life easier for business people and for the common folks. One of the things about this budget is very hard for the opposition to argue now is only poor, it's only rich people JLP look out for. You know, that's chatter, right?
Yeah.
And that part about parting with the rent money. The BNP is if she put up a very short defense here, that get her wicket. I don't know what part they're going to find to get her wicket. because she was very cautious and careful to put up a stellar defense and playing a few strokes. So as I said, the whole budget, it's a common sense thing. Everything I thought was common sense. There was nothing wrong with it here, our election here, goody and all that. Everything will make somebody's life better or make business easier to do business. There was nothing just for get a money to money save. And that was what came across. Common sense. And I
Well,
can
thought out, yeah. Some straight
I
back actions and thought out.
have a caring, a responsible government that cares. Not fancy and sexy, but that is what a good government is.
There was a lot on the public service side too when she talked about negotiating with the union for the next set of changes and who are at the table, who are the unions at the table. So people who are the workers heard and knew that the promised increases to get them to a certain level of salary. That is still on the way, still on track.
She's a listener. And I must say, probably as much of a team that worked with her, crafted the message, our politicians, and they gave her a good message. But she was also a very good messenger.
Yeah. I heard about public sector transformation, which performance.
And the listening level, people talking about listening, talking to people can't do it now, we plan to do it. A very listening lady, which is always a sign of excellence. If you listen like that, you get things done enough.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, thank you for those perspectives, Nadine. We look forward to some of the other presentations in the budget debate. Certainly the opposition spokesperson on finance takes to his feet this afternoon, as does the opposition leader on Tuesday of next week. And of course, the big one, the Prime Minister will set out his store in terms of making the case via the budget debate for a third successive term.
And while David was a cautious batsman, I suspect Andy will come out with some hooks and cuts and try to make some things.
And some elegant cover drives, 2 extra covers. So thank you so much, Kevin. Thank you, Nadine.
Yes, thank you.
All the best, all the best.
Thank you.
We run to the break and come back therefrom with more of your calls on 876-212-9824 or 876-462-0919.
Contact News Talk 93 FM today via phone at 876-927-1660, extension 2475, or 876-427-9955. Email us at newstalk93fmsales@gmail.com. Visit our website at www.newstalk93fm.net. Host your next event at the UWI Regional Headquarters. Our venue, located in Boulder, Kingston, features reconfigurable meeting and seminar rooms, lounges, and lawn space for events large, small, and anywhere in between. Facilities can be tailored to suit any occasion, from stylish soirees to formal